All right, fashion dolls. Ooh, and y'all can see me a whole lot better too, right? All right, so we are back. This will be part two of my interview with Sampson. This is part one that I'm uploading right now, so you guys will be able to see it. Let me add Sampson back. Hey, Marco. Shout outs to my co-host, Marco the Prince, who is the host of Hear Me Out. So make sure you guys go and he'll be with us next Wednesday. All right, so I'm uploading part one, Sampson, and this is part two. All right. You were saying the people that you would give the most credit to for your story.
Yes, so in addition to my drug dealer, no, I'm just playing. So, people, it if we really could take a minute to be honest about what we deal with, our challenges just getting through life as people, again, particularly as people of color, black gay people, black queer people, it takes a lot of tenacity. And so to hear a lot of those stories, and that's one of the beautiful things I have enjoyed about being on the road for the past 2 decades, is interacting with different parts of our community in the way that I do and hearing our stories. Another person who had a really huge impact on my life was my second grade teacher, Miss Diane Walters.
Okay, okay. All right. So let's get into the fun stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go down your career here because you have some movies under your belt, a different direction, church boy, party and play, a tough act to follow. I live here. Church boy, I can relate to the most because growing up down here in the South for us as black LGBT people, y'all already know where I'm going with this. It's been difficult. Oh, you're going to hell. You're going to hell. If you like the same sex, you can't live this way. You're going to hell. It's not wrong. It's wrong. You can't do this. This is an abomination to God. It's been so much that has been put into us and taught to us as children. This is wrong. But now us being our full selves and adults, it's just like you don't even care.
Right.
I came out and I fully lived my truth at the age of 13 years old. People already know that something is different about them at a young age. They discovered that something has been different about them at a young age. And there's been a whole conversation on Twitter about, oh, well, no, the child can't decide for themselves. They can't do this. It's been a whole conversation about this. So the one I can relate to the most is Church Boy. Out of all of your projects that you've worked on, which one did you have the most where it's like, okay, I'm not really sure if I want to do this, if I want to put this out? Which one was the most challenging for you to tap into and create?
All of them. All of them, every last one of them. Because being a creative or a creator or whatever it is you want to, whatever we're called, is it's different. But I also know that it is I believe it's a calling. I know a lot of people look at it and they want to do it because they think, they see the glamour. They see you go out on a stage and get a standing ovation from the audience. They don't understand I don't want to call it a burden, but they don't understand the way the lens that you're given to look through life. They don't understand the lessons that you have to endure. They don't understand the perspective that you have to develop and the challenges that you have to persevere through to develop those perspectives in order to create the things that they see. I honestly believe that I probably would have been either a pastor or a teacher had I not been in this business. But I also believe that a lot of the messages that we need, a lot of people aren't going to come to a church or a school in order to get them. And so, this is where it is.
100%, 100%. Speaking of messages, let's talk about this project, B-Boy Blues, which was directed by Jussie Smollett with Timothy Richardson, Thomas Mackey, Landon G. Woodson, and Brandy Evans. So this was an adaptation of a novel that has been written by James Earl Hardy. So tell everyone a little bit about this project and how it all came together, how it came to be.
Oh, that's a good one. So I have been friends with Jesse for years, way before Empire. We go way back. James, I also have been friends with for a long time. I was in the original B-Boy Blues, a stage play when it was on off Broadway. That was over 10 years ago. I was the original BD in the play.
Okay.
And so I have been producing films for over 10 years as well. When I was in the stage play, James, who is the writer of B-Boy Blues, which is a groundbreaking story, Black gay love story, was one of the first, um, was talking to me about how he had had challenges making it into a film. And so I told him we did a run of the show at Howard Theater, not at Howard Theater, at Howard University, at the Ira Aldrich Theater. And backstage, we talked about making it into a film because he had been trying to do it for 20 years. And so I said, well, now that you done told me about it, we're going to make it happen. And we made it happen. And so it just so happens that, what is this? That was in 2013 that we had that conversation. So what, 7 or 8 years later, we now have the film. And we were able to bring Jesse on, who we need to support. You know, we need to rally around, and we need to just give a lot of grace to. You know, there are a lot of people who are saying things about him as the information about the film gets out, and so we have to understand. You know, life is all about moving forward, and this is a great story that we need to celebrate.
Right. And this is something that I talk about a lot on my platform, and that is representation. This represents Black gay men, but for me as a Black woman that is of trans experience, for me, seeing T.S. Madison, that's the blueprint, because we need more stories like this to break into national television. And
I
we
should tell you
create,
this too.
yeah,
So in the film, we have Marquise, who is a trans man who plays the BD in the film, plays their partner in the film. So I don't know if
wow.
people know that, but we there is some trans representation. So as you said, that's very important.
Yes, because it's so many. For us in the LGBTQ community. We're so multifaceted. Like we're non-binary, intersex. But I mean, it's so many parts of the spectrum. But one part of the spectrum that doesn't get represented on television is Black LGBT, and it's barely any there. I mean, you've had Billy Porter on Pose, and who else? Dominique T. Jackson, MJ Rodriguez. That Pose was the blueprint to showcase people of color that are in our community, the LGBTQ community. And of course, you had Big Frida and T.S. Madison to be the first Black trans woman to have her own television show. That's never happened in history. And now we're having beauty competitions where they're allowing trans women to compete in them. So I'm like, okay, what about us? What about Black trans women? Like, representation for us is key. And Sampson, you have been that. I'm thankful for the likes of you and T.S. Madison and Laverne Cox and Dominique T. Jackson and supermodel Connie Fleming. Like, you guys are the blueprint for us.
And then, have you heard of Tracy Africa?
Yes, the first woman to appear on the Clairol Born Beautiful box. And her story, it resonates with me so well because this happens. This actually happened to me. I was on an app. Everybody knows about the Bigo app, and people are, it's dangerous. It's getting really dangerous for Black trans women out here. And shout outs to my mentor, Miss Melody XOXO. She always talks about it. We're always being outed, and that's nothing that no one ever wants to go through, is to be outed.
hmm hmm Because, well, to be outed, I would imagine that means a loss of dignity, you know? And so I am not a trans person, and I don't know what trans folks go through. Um, I was speaking with a trans friend. I got in a little bit of trouble because, during the Dave Chappelle situation,
Uh-huh.
I voiced as a comedian, I believe that comedians should be able to say what we want to say. I also understand how some trans folks may have been a little ruffled by what he said. but I also believe that comedians should be able to say what we want to say. So I was like, how do we have that conversation? How do we, how do we find balance in there? And I was having a conversation with a friend who is also trained. I don't know if you know Blossom Brown.
I sure do.
Yes,
Blossom, Ashley, all the girls. I love them down.
yes, yeah. We went out to dinner, and she was just she got in my ass about supporting Dave
Hope
Chappelle.
Giselle too. I
Yes,
love her too.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hope Giselle. There's another Miss Major. I know you know Miss Major.
I sure do.
Miss Major, you know it. So it's important for us to be able to have these conversations. But again, it really goes back to us supporting each other, lifting each other up, and holding space for each other.
And to add on to that, Sampson, not only that, but educating one another, because it's some black men that are in the LGBTQ community that don't know what non-binary is, that don't know what trans is, that don't know what, because it's so many letters, not to be funny or anything, but we're always coming up with so many things, not just fashion trends and beauty trends and things like that, but we're coming into our true identity. It's 2021 and people are just slowly, surely accepting us. We still have a long way to go. And my thing is this, we still have to continue to have these difficult conversations. I seen the conversation with Hope, Flame, Ashley, and T.S. Madison, and it got heated. Dave Chappelle's jokes offended me because my thing is this. What you put out here is dangerous because we're easily targeted. You don't have to go through the same thing that I go through. And that's looking over your shoulder to make sure that no one's sneaking up behind you to get you. I fear for my life going out because I get the stares, I get the looks. And the next thing you know, shout outs to my girl Delicious. I had her on my show. Delicious is a rapper. And she was saying that she got clocked. Well, we use, that's the terminology for getting outed, exposed. It's dangerous out here on us. So his jokes are not only polarizing, but they are offensive to trans women and dangerous as well too. Because even when he just recently went to the school, the kids were just like, they booed him. And they understand, like this generation coming up is starting to understand, LGBT pronouns and so many things. So that's why I love what you do, Sampson, and you make no bits about it. You're unapologetic. But Dave Chappelle, his jokes offended me and I've called it out. And my thing is this, yes, have liberty to say what you're going to say. Comedians do that. I had Tommy Davidson on the show. Tommy
Okay.
Davidson, he came on and welcomed me with so much love in his heart. I have people on my platform who have love in their heart because I love you, Sampson. Your work is just impeccable. And I'm just
Thank
starstruck that
you.
I'm sitting right in front of you right now. But I'm not mad at you at all. And this is what it takes for us to come together in our community because I've seen so much I know you heard about the Bigo app where trans women are tearing down black men in our community and black men in our community are tearing down trans women. I'm just like, why can't it be like this? Have these conversations that are difficult to have, and maybe we can come to an understanding. That's what it takes. Love.
Yes, it takes love and again honesty. Because I think if we can allow one another to be honest, put it out there and say, hey, this is how I honestly feel. And rather than get upset and cancel each other, go, okay, well, why do you feel that way? A lot of us don't do that. A lot of us automatically, we deny another person's complete humanity because they have an opinion that we may not agree with. And rather than say, hey, this is a pretty decent person that I'm talking to, but they have some views that may be a little problematic, we just say, okay, well, you got this one opinion, which is just a small piece of who a person is. And rather than attack that, we attack the person and say, okay, we'll throw the whole person away. And I don't think that's productive at all. I did a show with Flame this weekend, as a matter of fact, Flame Moreau. And I know a
Okay.
lot of trans women a lot of trans women don't see her. you know, a lot of trans women don't like her too much. And I was saying, for me as a comedian, I strive to use comedy as a platform and an art form to make people feel good and uplift folks. So thankfully, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, he's not too problematic," which I appreciate that. But again, as a comedian, I understand that it is important for comedians to be able to tell the truth about things. On one hand, I can understand why what Dave Chappelle said is funny to a lot of people, because the thing about comedy is it calls out truth. It calls out those things that sometimes makes us uncomfortable. And you understand what I'm saying when I say a lot of people do have questions about trans identity because it's still
Yes.
not an open conversation. And that's one of the things that makes that conversation funny and allows me to agree with comedians should be able to say what they want to say because it's funny. On the other hand, I also understand when a trans woman says to me that hurt, and I can understand the need for a little more humanity in the way maybe a joke is delivered or crafted. And so again, that's why these conversations are important.
All right, Fashion Dolls, we're going to come back with part 3 concluding. I'm going to do 3 parts because I don't want my phone to die on me. This interview is so amazing. And right, Marcos Lewis. We're going to be right back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do the rapid 5 and turn the table. Sampson is going to ask me some questions when we come back. So I'm going to save this. This is going to be part 2. You're going to get 3 parts. Part 3 is coming up.
Okay.